Welcome to the WanderLearn podcast. I'm your host, France Tapon. This is a short introduction to this episode, which is part of a 7-part series with a Mozambican who is named Julio Maria Muhorro. He is a power coach, facilitator, and speaker from Mozambique. Make sure you listen to the other episodes if you've missed them. And this episode, by the way, is brought to you by my patrons at patreon.com/ftapon. Go there and get some rewards. Thanks. All African countries are pretty religious. Now, I imagine that because you were colonized by the Portuguese, I imagine it's got to be at least 80% Christian and maybe 20% Muslim, or what is the breakdown? Yeah. And you also mentioned that the people in the center have more of the indigenous African beliefs, and so animist probably.
There is an interesting combination. It really varies from city to city and province to province. So the majority of the population is Christian, Catholic specifically. And then you have a percentage of Muslims and the two groups of Shias and Sunnis as well. You have those. And you have Hindus as well, because Mozambique also have quite powerful relationship with India. So we have the Hindus playing in, and the smallest group is the active practice of African religions. Usually they might have some rituals related to the sea or related to the mountains, but there's really the minority, or at least the minority who actively express themselves or identify themselves as part of those religions.
That's interesting, because that's one of the things that frustrated me. Like, I would look at these surveys and show that animism, which is kind of like the indigenous African faith and religion, I would ask Africans all the time, what religion are you? And the answers were always either Christian or Muslim. That was it. Almost nobody would actually look at me in the eyes and say, I am an animist. And yet, you would see, like in West Africa, you would see lots of voodoo stuff going on, and other types of, and what's it called? The fetishes, which are the little things that they animal parts and that kind of stuff that they use in their rituals. And yet nobody would tell me in my face that they're an animist. It's almost, and one person said it's because they're ashamed and they think that the cool religions are Islam and Christianity. Is this crazy, or is this do you see any truth to what I just described?
I think it's not necessarily because of shame, especially in Mozambique specifically. It comes down for people not seeing that as a religion. You know, it's more around spirituality and the values that you have and what you believe in, and less about human construct on how you should pray or how you should organize your society. So I think most people, they wouldn't identify that even as a religion, but more around a system of values and a system of spirituality and culture. Yes, instead of being an actual religion.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, because then that kind of indicates that they think, but there's also, in a sense, kind of a self-esteem issue there when you're saying like, or maybe it's not self-esteem. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it too much. But this idea that our belief system of spirituality is not elevated to the level of a religion. But that's assuming that you think there's a hierarchy there. Maybe there's not a hierarchy. Maybe for them, they're saying, no, we're the base layer. The base layer is this belief in animist beliefs and that the power of the earth and the spirits that are around us. That's a base layer. And on top of that, you put some sort of religious construct. Maybe that's it.
I mean, also, I think it is. And it makes sense, because if you think about how most countries colonized Africa, they were really trying, on a way to control more the local populations, they were really stripping down the identity of that population. So stuff as speaking your local language, having your local religion, they were not deemed as being as desirable, right? So it's not, to me at least, not a surprise, and most people don't feel at least comfortable, not necessarily ashamed, but comfortable sharing that with other people. And also because of all the many misinformations people have around it. You know, that like if you go to Africa, there is tons of black magic and everything is just bad and they're sacrificing animals. So no one wants to be necessarily associated with the bad religion or with the bad thing, quote unquote, even though there is no such thing, in my opinion, at least. But yeah, I can totally see why people wouldn't self-identify as being part of one religion in detriment of another one.
And that ends this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel, technology, and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we've talked about, go to WanderLearn.com and click on this episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is always my social media username. My website is ftapon.com. Do you want to leave me an anonymous voicemail where you can make a comment or ask a question? Then go to speakpipe.com/ftapon. Furthermore, if you'd like to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/ftapon. That's where you can pick up some remarkable rewards for as little as $2 a month. Now, 5 quick favors. Number 1, subscribe to the WanderLearn podcast. 2, download it. 3, share it. 4, review it. And 5, sign up for my newsletter at WanderLearn.com. Our theme music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.